alongside SC Romero, Justin Taylor, and this week's guest, Noah Green. I'm Tommy Harvey. Tonight, we are going to dive into looking at Devy relevant players in the Pac-12, plus some Devy news. All that will be coming up right now. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing great.
Doing good, my man.
Awesome. Hey, before we jump into a little bit of Devy news, do us a favor. Everybody hit the thumbs up and subscribe. As always, if you'd like to know when we go live, just make sure you also hit that notification bell. A little bit of Devy news to start off the show tonight. Seydou Traore has committed to play wide receiver at Mississippi State. That I know he wanted to play that at Colorado, and he felt kind of tricked into going there. So now he has moved on to Mississippi State.
He was a tight end, right? At Colorado?
He was a tight end. Yeah, he was a tight end. Transferred to Colorado to play wide receiver, and then they kind of told him, "Hey, you're going to play tight end here too." He didn't like that, so he transferred to Mississippi State.
Nice.
Originally from Arkansas State, correct?
Correct. Originally at Arkansas State with old Butch Jones down there. Also here, 4-star quarterback Demond Williams Jr. has decommitted from Ole Miss. Indications are he is trending towards Arizona. And 5-star wide receiver Cam Coleman has committed to Texas A&M. Those are a couple of guys to look for in your Devy dress for next year, particularly Cam Coleman at Texas A&M. All right, we are going to go ahead and move into the player part of the discussion here tonight. We are going to get this started with quarterbacks. You guys like how I did that?
Nice.
Nicely done.
Little delay there. Add the suspense. I love it.
Right. Yeah. There you go. All right. Everybody knows who Caleb Williams is. Probably not a whole lot of reason to go over him too terribly much. We can, but as for the quarterbacks in the Pac-12 that we're mostly looking at, we got Caleb Williams at Southern Cal, Malachi Nelson at Southern Cal, the freshman, Dante Moore, freshman at UCLA, Michael Penix Jr. at Washington, Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, and then it kind of drops off a little bit. You know, you're going to go Cam Ward at Washington State, Bo Nix at Oregon, another freshman, Austin Mack at Washington, a couple more freshmen here, Jaden Rashada at Arizona State and Aiden Childs at Oregon State. Those are probably your top 10 Devy quarterbacks in the Pac-12. What do you guys what type of thoughts do you guys have on those guys?
Noah, I saw you had some Southern Cal gear on. Anything about Caleb Williams or Malachi that you want to?
Bro, Caleb's elite. I do. I'm a proud SC alum. Caleb is the best quarterback we've had in a really long time. Frankly, probably since Carson Palmer. I think he's better than Matt Leinart even was. He's just an elite prospect. Malachi is real interesting for the future. He came knowing he was going to sit the year, so he'll get to sit out, get used to Lincoln's system, and then take over. Very different than Dante Moore, who was at Oregon and then transferred to UCLA to start right away. So Malachi is going to sit that year behind Caleb. But Caleb is going to be the #1 pick next year. He's the consensus 101 in every single Devy draft, rightfully so. The rushing is incredible. The pocket awareness is incredible. The arm is incredible. His creativity is off the charts. he's going to be real good. I think he in NFL ranks already even. He's close to a top 10 QB in Dynasty right when he gets drafted, in my opinion. If not,
I actually have him right ahead of Justin Fields.
Yeah, if not automatically top 10. He's just going to hit right there. So it's an exciting time to be an SC fan, and we'll get into some of the weapons around him because the weapons are unbelievable as well. I want to hear. I know you got that Oregon foam finger. I want to talk about Bo Nix.
Yeah, man.
I think Nix might be too low on this list. I think Nix has a chance to with another good year hop back into even the second round NFL draft conversation. But I'm curious to know your thoughts being closer to the ground.
Well, here's my thoughts on Bo Nix. I've seen him play way too much in the SEC, and he was not very good when he was at Auburn. Transferred out to Oregon, and his game against Georgia, he was again not very good. So I don't know how he does against elite competition. Playing out of Oregon, Pac-12 didn't really have a whole lot of elite other than USC. So that kind of puts me at a little bit of a standstill with Nix, just because I don't know how his game translates to big game competition.
No, I mean, I agree. But if he comes out and has a great year, just like has a 5,000 yard, 4,800 yard season and just blows it out the water with touchdowns, interceptions, I think that draft stock is going to raise for him. So in that regards, that's going to be good value if you have him, because you can sell him for that draft stock, right? Similar to like what we see in the Will Levis, where he fell down the board, but yet he still was traded up for. And it's like, okay, look, the Tennessee invested in him, so now go get the value for him because they traded up. They're looking at him for the future. Same kind of deal with Bo Nix. If he goes out there and has a great season with your Jerrion Dickies, with your Troy Franklins, then it's possible that his value does go up into a day 2 capital pick, and then you capitalize on that value, because I don't necessarily see him. You hit all the right points where a tough defense he may struggle against. I don't think he's a full year starter. He's gonna get a couple playing. If someone gets injured or anything like that. But I think he's someone that you can target late in Devy drafts because the value you get in return may be worth something for him. When it comes to other quarterbacks, in Oregon, I do love Aiden Childs. I think him and Ukulele is an interesting little combo, but Aiden Childs is coming in fresh, as a freshman, coming out of high school, dual threat, showed some elite talent there. He also, went through adversity. He broke his wrist, as a junior, and then he came back and had a stellar senior season. So, he has that mentality to come back from a defeat, not take a step back, but actually take a step forward and come even better when it comes to that. So, just in Oregon in general, man, it's exciting to be a Oregon football fan. I think there's great things ahead of them. We're going to throw it up there. But we can't not talk about Malachi and Caleb Williams. Yeah. Caleb Williams is going great. My question to y'all would be right now, if you had the 101 in Devy drafts, you're taking Caleb Williams. If you're not, I don't know, maybe you're high on Drake May, maybe you're super high on Marvin Harrison Jr., but you're taking Caleb Williams 10 out of 10 times.
Literally.
The question is, though, would you trade that 101 knowing you can possibly get Malachi Nelson later?
Yeah, I was going to ask where people would be drafting Malachi. Because I've seen him go as high as late first in some drafts. I've seen him go 111, 112. I'm not sure. I'm as an SC guy, I'm not sure I'm going that high on him. Mostly because he's a freshman quarterback, not really because I have massive questions about him in particular. I think his profile is incredible. He's coming from Modern Day, which is QB factory. So he's had an incredible high school experience, obviously. I just think taking a freshman QB in the first round of a Devy draft feels like there's just so much on. We've just seen that go wrong too many times, honestly.
Well, let's rewind to 2 years ago. Would you have taken Caleb Williams as as a freshman in the first round.
No.
No way.
No.
The question for me on Nelson is how much are you going to have to overpay for him? Because right now that's the issue is with Caleb Williams doing everything he's done, with everything that USC's brought in, it feels like everybody, loves SC, loves the QBs, loves everyone around him. That's why I think he's going high. I think I think you're feeding off part of that Caleb Williams 101, and now I think you get people going,
yeah.
Well, is he the next Caleb Williams? And if he is, should I be buying him? And people don't want to miss on him. They don't want to wait till the late second and then go, oh, I knew I should have taken him earlier. And I think that's where you're going to get a lot of people coming in this year. They're on the Caleb Williams side. Everybody loves Caleb Williams, as they should. But I think that's why you're going to play a little more of the premium for Nelson. And I actually think for his stock, obviously it doesn't matter personally, but him sitting behind Williams for a year, I think only helps him. Gives a year to see a guy that's won the Heisman, learn the system, see what he's seeing. I mean, I'd be jacked to have him on a team because you got to think he's going to be coming in absolutely ready to roll next season with just loads of talent around him. And you saw what Lincoln Riley did with Caleb Williams, who, not everybody thought he was, the greatest passer in the world. People liked his athletic profile, but man, he has really improved. And you got to think that's hopefully what everybody wants is that's around the corner for Nelson.
Yeah, and the Lincoln Riley factor is huge because you've just seen him do that with QB after QB. You hit on it, like QB after QB after QB. By the way, I was mistaken. He did not go to Mater Dei. That's not correct. He went to Los Alamitos, but he's incredibly good. I think that's right, but I would not be spending that kind of capital on him. So if I could get him at some kind of a discount this year, I might even be waiting until somewhat in the middle of the year when people might be a little bit down or maybe need something for maybe they need an asset that's playing right now and I can go trade for him. I might be doing that rather than spending really high draft capital on him. If I could get him in the mid to late second, I'm looking at that. I'm thinking about that.
So revert back to an old show we did with our Devy mock. We did that 3-round mock, we actually took Malachi Nelson at 110. Tommy, that was your pick. Mm-hmm. And then let's just say, what if you had the offer of Caleb Williams for the 110 in your Devy draft, 2-4, 207? Would you do that? At 2-4, we took Cedric Baxter, and 207, we took Malik Neighbors.
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd keep Caleb. Yeah, I'd keep Caleb. I just think when you have a chance at a guy that looks as elite as Caleb and that has shown it against big time competition over multiple seasons across conferences, that would be too much uncertainty for me to give up Caleb for.
Whenever you're taking a freshman in a Devy draft, you're really projecting out. So the way we've talked about Caleb Williams, I think we'll be talking about Malachi Nelson in the next couple of years. That Lincoln Riley quarterback, he produces great quarterbacks. From Baker Mayfield to Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray, and he just produces those guys. Now Caleb Williams. Malachi Nelson is the next in that long list. So, I mean, I don't have an issue with taking him towards the end of the first, beginning of the second.
Can I go back real quick to Bo Nix? I just think he's going to be a real divisive guy when it comes around to draft time. I think you're going to have people who are going to be all over him, absolutely love the makeup, and are going to forget about the Auburn days. And I think you're going to have people that all they do is bring up the Auburn days. I'm like, well, he went to the Pac-12 and smoked bad defenses. Like, he can't do it in the NFL. And I think he just feels like he's going to be like a Will Levis to me, in that just people either are going to absolutely love him or they're going to be like, absolutely no way I'm taking this guy. So, yeah, I think that's where the issue for me is going to be, because I just think when you get to draft season and we start doing the pre-workouts and everything else, I think he's the guy that's got the most movement in him, either up boards or down boards, depending on who says what about him.
Well, to me, Bo Nix would look great playing in the XFL. I don't think he's going to look that good in the NFL.
I think, Bailey, like if he starts though, I mean the value there, I think like let's just say he goes to a team that uses him all 17. He's gonna be like a Derek Carr. You're not gonna rave about him, but you're not gonna necessarily be upset that he's there for you. You know, a nice high QB3 for your team or something like that, where you're not necessarily going to say, okay, look, I have Bo Nix on table. Here do you want? Like it's gonna be a problem trying to sell him even super flex leagues. You know, but I think there is some upside there because he does have a nice arm. It is going to be, you know, his turnover rates and his IQ when it comes to making the big plays happen. That's going to bring him down. You know,
I think that's a lot of the problem is you're always going to be constantly trying to sell him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where is he go? Where are you taking him in Devy drafts? If you're taking him,
I don't think.
Like, are you taking him?
Me personally, I'm not taking him because there's plenty of value even through 3 and 4 rounds. I'm not taking Bo Nix.
Okay.
Yeah, we did mention him in our 3 rounds. He was one to watch out for, but we didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm taking him, if I'm on a team that's maybe QB needy and I wanted a flyer, I would maybe throw something at the end of a draft, or if somebody had him, maybe throw, you know, a low ball offer just to see if maybe I strike gold with it. But I would expect, like, I would go into it going, this is probably going to flop on me. But I'm taking the chance because, hey, I might need a QB down the road, and could he hit for cheap? That's where I would be taking him. I would be going, hey, I know I'm getting into this with probably the very little upside if it does that. But, like, that's what I would do. I wouldn't be drafting him in like a 3 or 4 rounder probably unless I'm taking him at the very end for that reason.
And so where are you at with the guys just north of Oregon here in Washington? You know, you have Cam Ward and Michael Penix. You know, I both think those aren't necessarily top value guys when it comes to Devy drafts. I think there's some of the guys you want to take a late flyer on, possibly. You know, Michael Penix does have a great wideout, where Cam Ward, it's kind of going to be his show, and he's got to make it happen for himself. Where do you have those guys valued?
Michael Penix Jr. is actually kind of climbing draft boards right now. He's shown that injury from a couple years ago when he was at Indiana is well behind him. He's mobile, has a big arm, shown that he can really produce now, and I think he's smart. Honestly, I think he's a very smart quarterback. Now, yes, he does have 2, 3, 4 really good wide receivers around him that Cam Ward doesn't have. I think that they're kind of similar quarterbacks. Cam Ward's a little bit bigger as far as his build, but I think Penix is a little bit more mobile. A little bit more NFL ready, actually.
Yeah, I think that read on Penix is right. I think he can. I think he could climb. I think he could climb boards as well. He and Nick's, like, he doesn't have the same history with Auburn as Nix does, but I think he will be very controversial as well in terms of how people see him on the NFL level, because his college numbers are outrageous. They're going to stay outrageous. I mean, he's got weapons for days out there. Odunze, McMillan, Polk. I mean, it just keeps, they are loaded out there around him. And I think he's going to have an electric season. So I think he's going to be interesting as far as how does the NFL see his game. I agree with Tom. I think his game is more NFL ready, to be honest. I think he can make those throws. I think he can make those reads. And I could see him. He's a candidate. He's kind of a dark horse candidate for QB3 of this class, where we don't exactly know who that QB3 is. If he has an electric season, I could see him playing his way into that.
For all these QBs, a good test to them, I think, will be against Utah. Utah comes in with a pretty good defense, and I think how they play and react to Utah, not necessarily being one of your top colleges you're talking about in this conference, but yet one of the better defenses when it comes to it, I think will say a lot, you know, because obviously you're going to watch the USC game, you're going to watch their game against Oregon, you know, but that sleepy one is going to be Utah. If he goes out there and dominates them, because Utah's taking, you know, Oregon off the pages for the ranks a couple past years. So having him go against them and having a big game will be huge.
Yeah. Tom, you had mentioned Penix's mobility. I hadn't seen that as much out of him. Or Ward. I mean,
right.
Ward does more. Ward rushes more than Penix. Maybe that's just system based, but you think Penix has mobility if he needs to rush?
Yeah, Penix was actually a dual threat quarterback whenever he went to Indiana. Okay. Got hurt, transferred out to Washington. Is not really asked to run around all that much. Cam Ward is asked to run around, you know, quite a bit, scramble quite a bit. He's actually more of a powerful runner than he is quick or fast. Whereas Penix has fluidity to him.
Okay.
The question for me on Penix is when we get down to draft time, I think, you know, watching the tape, you see what he did last year, looks awesome. But the question for me is how much do people pick him apart for the Indiana days? Because you have to look at, he literally almost had as many pass attempts last season as he had his whole 4-year career at Indiana. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit of a red flag there. And then multiple injuries. He couldn't stay healthy at Indiana for his life. 2 ACL tears. I think he had another injury that knocked him out another season. So while I like his game, I think that's when you start seeing people pick him apart is they're like, hey, man, this guy, he missed a ton of time for injuries in his career. And now he had a couple good seasons, but he's going to be 24, I think, come draft time. So he's going to be a little bit older. So now, you know, you got to look at that with Hendon Hooker. Does he get the Hooker treatment a little bit where certain teams love him? They're like, man, look at the stats, look at the season he had. But is he that guy you're going to look, well, maybe second round, maybe early third, because they're going to think age, injury history, that type of thing. Yes. I like him. But again, we've talked about, this class coming up for QB could really go everywhere after Caleb Williams and Drake May. Yep. So I could easily see him being the 3, but I could see him dropping as well because of the history of at Indiana, the injury concerns and the age concern for him. And, you know, is he going to get the Knicks treatment where people are like, well, yeah, the stats were awesome, but look at all the guys around him. Look at, like, the defenses he played. Are people going to pick him apart because of that? So I like Penix probably more than Knicks if I'm going Devy options. But, again, he's another guy that I'm slightly worried about where that's going to end up being when you get to the NFL and the scouting combine and all that stuff starts coming up.
Agreed.
I also comparing Knicks and Penix there, I think Penix has better potential draft capital than what Bo Nix does. Bo Nix, I don't see him being any more than a late third, beginning of the 4th round type of NFL draft capital. Whereas Penix could easily be, you know, first round on. So I just see his draft capital being so much higher that he's the clear cut guy for me when comparing those two quarterbacks.
100%.
That's fair. I think there's more of a value, more of the upside value of getting Knicks, though, because Phoenix you can get a little bit later in your drafts. I mean, both those guys I probably wouldn't take in the first 3 rounds, but my Devy draft. But I think there might be more upside for what JT was saying on Bo. Drafting him, you're more likely to possibly lose more on Penix going there. But I mean, out of these quarterbacks, there's really only 4 that I'm comfortable taking in your first 3 rounds of Devy. You know, that's the 2 at USC, Dante Moore, and then Shedeur Sanders. When it comes to this quarterback room or quarterback list at Pac-12, those are the top 4 that I'm comfortably taking. All of them, y'all know me and Shedeur. You know, I think that's my boy. That's my guy. You know?
Yeah. You took him. You took him in the first round, and
yeah,
to me, he's taking a big step up in competition, a big step up in competition. Can he do it for a bad team? Because Colorado's not going to be any good.
I think with that, I mean that's the upside in him because he's taking that step. If he comes down and has a great season, he's gonna cost too much. So that's where it's like for me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna take him and I'll take that high risk, high reward kind of deal because he does have that dual threat ability, and they're building the team around him. You know, they're gonna make the team about him and make sure it's comfortable for him to make the plays necessary. But you know, another quarterback where the big games are gonna matter. You know, the game against USC, game against Oregon, game against Utah, regardless if they lose, how he plays is gonna be good. Like if they're down by 20. Is he still going out there and playing hard, or do you see him kind of take a step back? Or vice versa, do they go up by 20? Is he playing hard, or is he taking a step back in comfortability? Those are going to be huge tests for him coming this year.
That's another thing with Sanders is that they're going to be forced to throw the ball a lot because their defense is going to be really, really bad. So he's going to be forced to throw it around to, you know, Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn and, you know. So, I mean, is he going to be good enough?
I'm on with SC here. I actually like Sanders a ton. In one of my C2C leagues, I had the last pick of the first round, and I took Sanders with the last pick of the first round of our supplemental draft. And I love him for CFF purposes because, again, I think he's going to have a chance to put up a ton of stats just against bad defenses, and they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. So I'm on Sanders for that reason, but also like SC, I think his name recognition and the fact that they're going to do everything they can to set this up for him, I just think right now is the cheapest time you're ever going to get him. I just think he for now he is, because if he goes out there and performs, he's going to have a lot of QB battles because there's going to be a lot of like, oh, Sanders versus Caleb Williams, Sanders versus Nix. I mean, that's what they're going to pump in the SEC. In the Pac-12 is they're going to pump all these QB battles. He's going to get a ton of chances against, you know, to show what he's got. I just like him a lot. I think they're going to put up crazy stats. I think I'm probably the second highest guy on Sanders behind SE. So I like him a lot too.
Do you like his NFL prospects? And second question is do we think he's one and done at Colorado? Like, is he going pro next year, or is he going to do 2 seasons at Colorado and then go pro the following year? And I guess which is better for his NFL future if he tries to go next year versus the following year?
If he tries to go one and done, he's going to have a big year because there are so many other quarterbacks vying for that QB3 spot that he is going to have a major year in order to be able to do it. So if he does, then sure, he'll be a one and done guy. If not, then it would be smart for him to come back for a second year.
I was going to say, I think with Dion, you know, he's a guy who's all business. He's going to look at it and say, hey, if this is the best chance you got, I think he'll be absolutely the first guy to tell him, go. Get in the draft right now, sign that contract, and go. I think out of any coach and player, I think he's going to be the one that's going to be the most honest. He's going to say, hey, this is your prime spot. You got to go out now if he has a big year. And if he doesn't show everything, I think he's going to say, hey, you're not going to go where you want. You got to come back and prove it so you can jump up to that next spot. So that's also why I like Sanders. Is I just feel like with Dion being his coach and his dad and his history in the NFL, I just think he's going to help him make a lot of good decisions when it comes to that.
If there's projections where he's top 10, top 10 in the NFL draft picks, then he's definitely going. Top 20s where it's like, all right, maybe. But then if same thing what he was saying, like if Dion comes out and says we can do better, that's where it's gonna come in. But it's gonna be those big games that matter. Because even if he has a, 3,500, 3,700 yard passing season, and let's just say 500-600 rushing yards or something like that, if the games against the big guys like USC and Oregon don't make sense or just don't work out in his favor, that's going to be a huge red flag for him to say, maybe I need to take a step back because I need to show I can beat this better competition, right? Even if they beat everyone else, but the games against those two teams are just horrible, that's going to be a sign to say, okay, maybe we could take a step back because there is possibilities. And the 2025 class, there is a lot of open room. There's talks of Aller being, QB1, but if Sanders waits, he can easily jump into that.
Yeah, he could be QB1 or 2 fairly easily in that 25 class, I think, because, there's a lot of questions around Klubnik. There's a lot of questions around some of those other guys. So I think that's the thing, too. If he says, I think if he goes in the draft and they're like, hey, you're QB3, I think he comes out. I think if they say you're QB 5, 6, I think he goes back because I think he goes, okay, I could be QB 1-2 next year.
Yep.
Right. Agreed.
Anybody else have any thoughts on any of these other quarterbacks we have listed down here?
I was just going to throw in just a few things. Cam Ward, I like the player. Obviously put up great numbers before he transferred to Washington State. That's known as a pretty pass-happy system. I think he kind of disappointed for me last year. I think he needs a big year if he's going to jump in Devy. I think he needs a big year. And then two guys I've been taking a lot. If I can get them a little bit later, I've been grabbing a bunch of Austin Mack, Rashada, and Childs. All three of those guys, those freshmen, I like the upside on those guys. Like I said, if Childs, he's got DJ in front of him, but I think it's wide open for him after that. I think Mack, obviously Penis going to be gone. He gets a year behind him. I think Mack's another guy with that system. They're kind of starting to do something. So those are guys I'm definitely eyeing in Devy's. I know they're freshmen. I don't like to take freshman QBs too often. I'm not overpaying for them, but those are guys I like the situations they're in.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and ask this because I pretty much know the answer. Are we all out on DJ Uiagalelei right now? Is he just done?
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer Childs over him. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think DJ. I think his NFL prospects are almost zero.
Yeah.
Like even if Childs doesn't start this year, I'd still rather take him for the upside of him rather than take that flyer on DJ.
It was like I said. I'm pretty sure I knew the answer. I just wanted you guys to kind of throw that out there.
Crazy because he was a top 2 Devy pick.
Yep.
Not
him and Rattler.
Yeah, not too long ago.
And that goes back to what we're saying about Malachi. That freshman where it's like these guys were high there, and now we're barely talking about them. So it's you're taking the upside, but a lot of the stuff can change that might be out of their control.
Yeah.
So it's like that's hard.
Everybody remember when Keaton Slovis was a thing?
I was just gonna say that. That was literally on the tip of my tongue. I was like,
Keaton Slovis was never a thing. Let me just be clear as somebody who I got into some Twitter wars with some people about that who got very offended because I read someone with Keaton Slovis this. I'm like, nope, not at all. That guy crumbles in the pocket. Oh, unbelievable. Wait,
I was just going to jump in on Slovis. I was going to say, I think Slovis was a factor of he played pretty solid his freshman year and the fact that he was on USC. Yes. I think if you take out either of those things, I think if people really looked at him as a QB and watched the games, are like, ugh, does this guy really have like NFL high upside?
Yeah,
no, he just happened to be a freshman who put up solid numbers at USC.
Yep. Graham had a few quotes. Graham Harrell had a few quotes about him and his arm being outrageous. But then you remember his wide receiver room was Pittman, London, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like he was so his positivity was based on those guys. And then when he was mediocre in his sophomore year with that surrounding cast, it's like, come on, like it was just wild. But yeah, you're right. It definitely goes to that point. I will say Malachi has the Lincoln Riley factor, which makes a difference. Like Lincoln Riley if I want any QB with Lincoln Riley, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to do that. We didn't talk about Dante Moore talking about these freshman QBs. He's going to start for UCLA?
Very possible. Very possible.
It's like, no.
Yeah. It's actually, my opinion, very likely he's the day one starter. Because Colin Schlee is not a Power 5 quarterback.
Well, notice he's not on the list.
And then they brought in Garbers from Cal, and he's already beaten Schlee out. So
Dante Moore is another one. I think you're gonna probably have to overpay for him. I hate to say it, but you're probably gonna have to this year. But that's probably your last chance to get him. Because if he starts and he's even remotely good at USC with Chip Kelly, he does some of those Oregon numbers he used to do, he is going to fly up boards. I mean, he's going to be one of those guys who's going to be impossible to get because people are just going to look at him like, oh, my God, he was awesome as a true freshman. He's got 2 more awesome years. I mean, so if you want him, I just think you got to get him this year. Now, the question is how much will you pay to get him? Because I just think if he flops, that's everything, but I don't think he will flop. I don't think he will. I think he'll be good. The question is how good. And then I just think that's where you're going to get the oh, man, I knew I should have got him last year because you're going to have to way overpay for him next year if he's even remotely good. So, yeah. I think I like Nelson at the USC thing more, but you're right. Maybe his value depresses a little bit just for the fact that he sits the whole year. But I just think it's not, because I think people are going to go in and go, if Caleb Williams wins back-to-back Heismans and Nelson, they're going to go, well, can Nelson win as a freshman? Can he win as a, you know what I mean? I think you're going to get people throwing crazy expectations out there at him.
If Caleb wins, is he going to go top 3 in Devy drafts next year assuming Caleb repeats? Are people just going to be like, is it going top 3 to 5?
Yeah, because it's going to be his job.
Agree.
Yeah,
I think the hype, that's me. I think the hype will get crazy around him. And that's why I'm saying I hate to take a freshman QB at the end of the first round or beginning of the second.
But you almost have to.
I almost think you're going to have to. You're going to have to take him this year or you're in trouble.
The sitting almost helps him in this case.
Yeah,
I think so too. I agree with you. I actually think he'll move up even though he sits the whole year.
Yeah, there's 4 quarterbacks that everybody's kind of talking about as far as Devy potential. 3 of them are good. 1 of them's not. But Moore is one of the good ones. So you're looking at Malachi Nelson, Dante Moore, and Nico Iamaleava. Those are the 3 those are the 3 freshman quarterbacks you're targeting in Devy, and you're going to have to target them early, or else you're not going to get them.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Dante Moore, when we did our draft, I took him at 211, and I think that's great value because if he goes in there, he's not coming out next year, right? He's playing at least 2 years. You go in there, you're going to capitalize on that value, even if you're feeling like maybe he's not the NFL quarterback, but you're capitalize on that value as a freshman, and then go get something even greater.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for tonight's show. For more content, head on over to dynastyprosfootball.com. Thanks for tuning in. Also, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. For SC, JT, and Noah, I'm Tommy Harvey. We shall see you guys next time.